Good afternoon.
Oh, Dimitri, we hear you. Hello, hi.
You hear me and you see me, I presume.
Yeah.
Also, and Bogi as well. So yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bogi.
Yeah, perfectly.
Thank you.
So I suggest that we can start slowly, if that's okay for you. It is important topic which we need to cover today, the role of artificial intelligence in healthcare, and especially under the aspect of the green transition and the green healthcare, because the main event is dedicated to the green transition. Before I open with questions, I am really happy to say that Novartis has supported this event, our usual partner in such events, modern events. So thank you very much, Novartis. Thank you, Andrea, for your cordial support. And I hope that we will take the maximum of this conversation. The meeting will be recorded and then broadcasted and can be downloaded on demand. So the Biotech Atelier will take care on this. Let's start with the first question. It will be actually an interview. I will ask all of you for opinions, and then also you can comment more besides the question if you think that there is something which is very important. The first topic is related to the integration of artificial intelligence in healthcare, of course. And we see that this happens much faster than expected, although we know that artificial intelligence, in a way, is already persisting in some healthcare products, being medical devices or software. But where do you think that this integration will be within the next 5 years? Do you think that we will be able to have artificial intelligence in almost everything, starting from drug development and ending up with diagnostics, or it will be limited? Let's start with Bogi. Bogi, what do you think?
Thank you. So it's a very good question, and also thank you for inviting me to this this very important session. So I think so. Being from the institute where we always look at the different ways development can go, it's hard for me to have a firm response on that it will be just like this. But if we take the 5 years ahead, it's quite clear that we have already seen the applications when it comes to imaging in different ways, and that will probably go much faster in it. But where we are limited is, of course, in the data input we have for the AI in different ways. So we should also distinguish between AI for functions and AI for learning in data and making conclusions. And then we have the geography of it. It's quite clear that the ways of working are different between, let's say, US, Europe, and China / India. So there will also, it will also be quite dependent on, will there be a alignment between these areas, or will this be 3 totally different ways of approaching the use of AI in it? And if that is the case, we will also see some clashes in how companies and systems can work and what they can use.
Thank you. Bogi is director of the medical department of the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies. So the future is part of his specialties. Andrea, what is your opinion?
Sure. No, I fully agree with what Bogi just said. I mean, generally speaking, and I like to dream, and I believe that the impact of artificial intelligence in all sectors, and particularly in healthcare, will be enormous. And I really think that we will start materializing the world in which patient journey will not start anymore with disease diagnosis, but actually it will start with disease prevention and risk prediction, if you will. So that's something that I believe we will get closer to that. And on the pharma industry, that we will be probably running research and development on digital twins rather than on living beings, animals and humans. Speaking more concretely, there are a lot of things that are getting done actually already even now. I believe this risk prediction is getting materializing even as we speak, not equally everywhere. But just a month ago, there was a very good paper published in Nature Medicine with 5 million data from Denmark and 3 million data from the US about the pancreatic cancer prediction, the risk, and really very good results have been achieved. So we know that it is one of the most complicated form of the cancer, usually very late diagnosed and with the fatal outcomes. And we see now already the impact of machine learning and artificial intelligence on concrete problem really in the short term. And I believe this is going to become reality more and more as we get data availability, as Bogi said. Some countries faster, some maybe a little bit more longer will take, but then, you know, all about risk prediction, treatment, also with wearable devices, I believe we will be able to monitor and to do telehealth with artificial intelligence more accurately and in real time to monitor the signals, patterns, to do prediction, to see the outcomes of the drugs, of the therapies in real life, to measure them retrospectively, but also to do them prospectively and to predict them. Really, many things could happen there. Also, I believe that with chatbots and virtual assistants, if you will, they will be available 24/7. Their precision and accuracy will be so good that we'll be able to give advice to the patients around the clock, really, on a variety of topics in combination with the health parameters, but also patient-relevant outcomes. Will be able to deliver better quality of life as well. So shortly, I really believe that artificial intelligence will enable us to, as the famous quote says, more years to life, but also more life to years, you know, not only longer longevity of the life expectancy, so to say, but also better quality of life for people living longer, actually. Yeah.
Thank you. Andrea is the general manager of Novartis for Bulgaria and apparently an efficient dreamer. We will come to your dreams later on today when we speak about regulation and how far regulation of AI could, in a way, handicap your dreams. But now, Dejan, what do you think?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me to this panel. I have to acknowledge that for the first time I participate in a panel in which the words green transition, AI, and health are in the title. All three words. Never happened until now. So I'll take this as a rehearsal, if you allow me. But indeed, this is very interesting and very inspiring to discuss these topics all together. It's clear that we are generating huge amounts of health data. It's laying all around. Using that health data, of course, we can go in the old way and have people analyze that data and try to come up with conclusions. Doctors having access to the data of particular patients to make conclusions for that particular patient based on the access to data they have. That's the old way. But of course, we can approach it in a new way. And that new way requires AI. Without the help of AI, these huge amounts of data cannot be used in an efficient way. Of course, you ask, how do I see it in 5 years? It can go both ways because people are scared. People are scared because someone will look at their health data and tell them that AI will be working with their health data and just watch what the reaction is going to be. Huge amounts of people. So, in order not to go in the way where AI is ostracized and not used in healthcare, we need first to design the right ways for it to be done. Regulation needs to be in place, but also we need to tell people to put in place the right narrative in order to explain people that this is for their own benefit. And that's the role of politicians, key officials, industry, academia, etc., etc. And we have to do it together. Let's start today. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Dejan is the manager of our farm. That's the Association of the Innovative Medical Companies in Bulgaria. And if somebody knows the condition of the Bulgarian healthcare, that's Dejan, who is deeply involved in almost everything innovative which comes in Bulgaria. The next question is a bit more provocative, and it's a very good jump from what Dejan said, that actually, when we were invited to present something on the Green Transition Days in Bulgaria, first of all, I said, wow, that's something too far away from healthcare. But then I had a small research, and I have seen that there is already an expression, green healthcare, which means healthcare which is sustainable and not harming the environment and not harming the planet, if we can speak politically. So do you think that AI could be contributive in this aspect to promote more green healthcare, which is with less negative impact on the nature of the environment? Dejan, now is your turn to start.
Well, I'm first. Well, this very difficult question. Thank you. Well, what is green healthcare? Green healthcare is implementing ecologically friendly approaches in the healthcare delivery. And also, I would say, clinical research, scientific side of it also. Is there a place of AI? Of course. I'll just give one example with research of new drugs. More and more AI is used in that direction, which helps companies bring new treatments faster and quicker to market with less intensive clinical trials, labor intensive, resources intensive, animal testing also less intensive. So the AI and digital processes in that regards help, let me put it like this, decrease the carbon footprint of drug research. That's just one example. Of course, this could be implemented in any area of healthcare delivery. For example, we can run our hospitals in a ecologically friendlier way. There is one hospital in Sofia in which it's very difficult to park, regardless of the fact that it's 5 leva per hour, the parking, and it's very difficult. So if you connect these hospitals with the metro, with pedestrian walkways, that's one way to have a ecologically friendlier healthcare delivery in that hospital. And that's just one example. We can also build our hospitals in a more ecologically friendly way. So yes, there is a road in that direction. Of course, it's very difficult to put it on the radar of healthcare authorities because they have much more pressing issues to deal with in healthcare. So we do sound like dreamers, Andrea.
Well, that sounds all very good, very fair points, very good.
Andrea, what do you think about this? What's your consideration?
I fully agree. I mean, I really believe that we will have smart hospitals, as Dan was just pointing out, you know, where the energy optimization will be done actually based on the Internet of Things, based of artificial intelligence, analyzing data in real time and trying to find where we can save the energy, where we can do temperature, you know, all those kind of around managing the smart hospitals in an eco-friendly way, so to say. Then also when it comes to the waste management, I think we will be able to better classify healthcare waste in a way that might be more suitable for recycling, less suitable for recycling. Then in supply, we might have smart packing, you know, like smart hospital, also smart box that will find its way much faster to the patients, reduce also transportation, energy, and, you know, at the end, ultimately, emission on the pollution in the air. And also, if you think there are many other applications when it comes to the resource allocation. You know, artificial intelligence really can give advice to the hospitals and the healthcare system how to optimize resources, where to put them, where is the impact bigger, and where is the risk or the impact, negative impact on environment lower. You know, so this is something that is going to become reality. Really, even now, I believe that we are facing in some countries, in some part of the world, smart hospitals, smart drug delivery, utilizing drones even, you know, for reaching the patients in the area that is impossible to reach. So those kind of pilots will become even more reality, and the impact on the healthy ecosystem will be much bigger and real. Really, I really believe I can bring many other examples also. I mean, Dan mentioned in research and development, we have been using a lot of in silico modeling for more than 10 years now, and I think it's going to be accelerated and even acknowledged by FDA and EMA more formally. It has started, but it's going more in that direction. And you know what it means. It means really significant reduction of resources of animals, of human beings used in the clinical trials at the end, and making the impact. Also on the society, behavioral, I mean, this seems like a little point, but behavioral change of people, thinking more about their health, thinking more about the prevention. This is something that will really influence the ecosystem in general, really, even more. I can talk more long about this topic, but I will let you to proceed with another panelist probably.
Yeah, Bogi, it's your turn. What do you think about this?
Yes, I think, thank you very much also for the comments on before. I think this is a very important question. So, and it is something that I focus a lot on with my team, and a lot of it is also asking when, what, and how. But it's also a question on what do we mean by sustainability. So we have tried to work on what does it mean in green health when you really want to apply it. So this is about carbon footprint, it's about waste, it's about better use of resources, but it's also about creating value. It's about decreasing the disease burden that we have with health span. So 30% of the disease burden we have today that health systems deal with is avoidable. So that's going before we get to the health system. So what we also talked about, and the playing room for AI, is much bigger there than when we come into the clinical realm. So there we really can play around with it. So really to decrease the avoidable disease burden, and that also means that we need to change the mindset from health as a cost to health as an investment. So the dream here is what happens when health actually is the most important societal pillar. That's what creates value in your society. And that's the equality and the equity part of it. Here we in 2019 in our Nordic Health 2030 project, we came to one conclusion saying, and this is based on that the Nordic countries, they use 10% of GDP on health or on sick care. 97% of it is on sick care, 3% is on prevention, with an aspiration saying it has to be half or 50-50. So how do we get there? So when I'm asked about this green transition, the first thing I'm asking is, what are we doing today that we should not be doing? Right? So making a function more green, which is avoidable, we should not do it. We should figure out how do we stop doing that thing. And here, what I think is the most important thing here, and here AI is going to be crucial, is secondary prevention. So when you have the screenings and you have high-risk populations, how do you help them not to get the first chronic disease? And when they have it, how do you keep them as healthy as possible? And you prohibit or you slow down the progress to the second chronic disease, because that's where our health systems are falling apart and the complexity becomes unbearable. So this is where we really should have AI as something that we use. And there are a lot of data in Denmark that show that we should do this, even if we don't do it. But it's also about the sustainability in really using the energy precise when we or working with people on the right time. So we spend most of our money in the health system today when people are fairly ill, and the impact of our interaction is lower than it could be. So the timing on when we use, and here AI should help us, when do we have the best impact what we do in the health system?
Excellent. Thank you. This was really extremely interesting to hear. Now I'm coming back to the dreamer, Andrea, and starting with him. Dreaming is nice, but healthcare is a very regulated area. So what do you think will happen with the regulation of artificial intelligence in healthcare? And will this regulation in a way block the development and the introduction of artificial intelligence in healthcare? What's your frank opinion?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, actually. Not easy to answer. I believe that ultimate goal of artificial intelligence is to serve humanity. And in healthcare, as you said, highly regulated field is even more pronounced that safety, ethical, moral, all kind of constraints that should be met, even maybe more than in other fields, just because of direct impact that could be made there. Of course, I think some kind of regulation and framing around development of artificial intelligence in healthcare should be in place in order to prevent, data privacy, ethical questions, discrimination, biases. We can train the data. I was just discussing before of the meeting with Dejan, with the data that are favorizing one part of the population, or you have neglected people in some countries or some part of the world whose data are not digitalized. And when you train artificial intelligence tools, they will make policy shaping or even recommendations in the treatment without considering those people who are not yet integrated into the system, and then they may get even more neglected. So that's why it's very important to have some kind of frame awareness of those potential biases, ethics, data privacy. But on the other hand, we should not overdo, because any kind of overdoing regulation and administration can kill the innovation. So it's really finding a very fine balance between those two, of not preventing artificial intelligence to materialize all creativity potential that it brings in healthcare, but still guiding it. And I believe we need some framework which will not be written in the stone, that will be evolving over the time. We will be learning. We need to discuss, as Dan said, all together. It's a multiple stakeholder approach that we need to work together to raise awareness through this panel and similar events, to bring the topics and the challenges openly, and to talk and to figure out together how to make the best out of the circumstances that we are dealing. So yes, for regulation, not for overdoing it and preventing materialization of the innovative opportunities with artificial intelligence in healthcare.
That's excellently formulated, but the question is, who actually will regulate artificial intelligence in healthcare in Europe? Because in the United States, actually, this is FDA. But what I know is that EMA has abdicated from this in Europe. So Dejan, what do you think about regulations and who will regulate this?
Well, I'm sure and certain that access and use of healthcare data needs to be regulated both for the natural intelligence and the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because in Bulgaria, the national health information system is already operational. It's piling a lot of data. But if you ask the question, is the access to this regulated? Is there a special regulation? What doctor access what? The answer will be no. So it's not still certain. Me as a patient, when I have a situation, whether regular or unplanned, what my doctor will see, which doctor sees what. So having said that, artificial intelligence, maybe we will regulate the access of artificial intelligence to healthcare data before we regulate the access of natural intelligence to healthcare data. I don't know. But it needs to be done. And it will be done. That's the, how to say, inevitable. I had a discussion the other day following an event of ours with a very high level official in Bulgaria, describing the need of implementing screening programs. We still don't have screening programs in Bulgaria for the three major oncology localizations, for example. And he said, this needs to be done, but please, when you design it, do it. Not that we as industry are going to be designing it. I'm just saying whoever designs it, please use artificial intelligence from the beginning. Put it in the equation from the beginning. Don't go in the old way because it needs to be done. And this comes with a regulation. You cannot implement AI in screening programs, for example, without regulation, just randomly. So it's the next step. And again, we have to work together. If we rely only on the administration to do it, regardless whether it's the European level or national level, I would say I'm not very optimistic. All stakeholders need to participate, and maybe not writing down what the regulation is going to be, but talking, discussing, pressuring, if you want, for this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So from my incidental meetings with the newly appointed health minister, I know that prevention and primary healthcare are his passion. So probably now we will be knocking on an open door if we invest more efforts in prevention and preventive programs, not only in oncology, but also in other diseases. But let's come back to the question, and Bogi, what do you think? Will regulation of artificial intelligence in the world and in Europe handicap in a way the integration in healthcare?
Yeah, so I mean, this is an area that is quite difficult to frame geographically, as there is so much interconnectivity in between, and we probably would need to get the data to work on from more than just Europe, especially when it comes to rare diseases or subsets of diseases. But I think a question which is often forgotten, or an aspect which is often forgotten, is that AI is a tool. It's not the aim and it's not the outcome. So what is the outcome that we want for the AI? And if we want to have some kind of a frame, and I'm fully in on what the two others were saying on that, we need to be very careful on not being too rigid. We tend to really push very much on legal frames to solve everything on contemporary challenges, and it takes 2-3 years before it's there, and the problem is long gone, and we have new problems. What we really need to define are playing fields, where we have intentions on what is helpful and beneficial use of AI. So one thing that Ricardo Baptista has put forward, for instance, is a constant surveillance of AI, not once every 3rd month or once 6 months, but you actually have flagging systems that go in. So the challenge in health is, of course, the black boxes where we don't have the transparency on what is really happening. And somehow we need to deal with that. And that's not primarily a legal question. It's a technical question on how we get that done. So this is why I think it's very, very important to keep a focus on what is the outcome we want. And then we can begin to think what are the frames that we need for that. When it comes to, I mean, we are not good enough in giving value to the citizen with AI. It also requires that a digital thought and a way of a new dimension of not being geographical and not being hierarchical with data is it cannot just be the system that sits on the data. The individual needs to have access to it. It was also said that you don't know if who has access to your data. There are models for this. So the governance with the outcomes is extremely important when we do this. In Denmark, for instance, you have a very trust-based system on who can access the data, but it's 24/7 locked. So if somebody who has not a reason to look into your data looks into it, you know it, the system knows it, and the person is fired inside some hours. So it's not a question about if it technically is feasible. It's about doing this and really focusing on what is it we want to have as an outcome on it. And I will answer your question. We cannot regulate this in the normal way we normally do laws. So we are moving from an analog to a digital world on speed, more or less, and we need to figure out how do we work with this mechanism. I don't think we have seen them yet. That's the challenge I see.
Well, but the FDA is in a way regulating artificial intelligence in healthcare. How do they do this?
So I think they do it with a quite frequent recheck of the algorithm, which is probably the only thing we can do today, and we should do it. But we also, and that's much better than not doing anything.
Exactly.
on this part. So, but I do not, but to make this change is not enough to convince politicians about this is a good idea. We need to get the public confidence on that it is a good idea, and that we only do by giving them benefits. So it cannot just be about a better system. It has to be a benefit for the population.
I see. The next question is also provocative. In Austria, where I'm living part of my life, there is a big discussion about the role of artificial intelligence in cutting jobs from different industries. So every day, news are popping up that some industry or some big company in Austria has cut 200-300 jobs and utilized artificial intelligence. So do you think, Bogi, we start with you now, that artificial intelligence in healthcare might lead to cutting jobs, joblessness, and so on?
No. So this debate has been over the last 150 years, every time we had a technological leap. Every time there has been a screaming on that half of the population or a quarter of the population will end up without jobs, every time it has shown that it created more jobs. So only half of the world receives healthcare today. Okay, so there is a huge amount, and a huge part of the world doesn't receive adequate healthcare. So yes, you would cut jobs in certain instances, but you create new jobs and you create jobs in different areas. So combined, this will not be job losing, but people might need to do different things. So one of the things that AI in health will do is to take manual tasks off people's shoulders, so they actually can use their brain and their hands much better and much freer. So I don't share that fear, but there is a transition period where people will be fired until they get another job, which might be different, and you change in different ways, but there will be a creation of many new jobs.
Thank you. Andrea, what do you think?
Yeah, I also see this very positive, and similarly what Bogi said. I actually believe that artificial intelligence in healthcare will enable humans and people to be even more innovative. So our impact will be even bigger, because there are still certain aspects of innovation that cannot be created based on the historical knowledge. And I think the power of human imagination is still, I believe, bigger than artificial intelligence. We have also something that machines would never have, and those are emotions. They make us imperfect, but they make us so human, and we know what those emotions means. We know what parents would do for their kids, what lovers would do for each other, what sportsmen would do, when they are including the passion and emotions in achieving the goals, which maybe on the artificial intelligence assessment would never be achieved. Intellectually, we know this is impossible to be achieved because you simply consider facts and sophisticated logic there, and you come to the conclusion of the likelihood of how much it is possible to be achieved. But we know actually that with emotions, we can maybe overcome intellectual capacity. And yes, emotions are making us sometimes imperfect, making us human, but making us also to dream better, more, and to care for each other. I think empathy is something also that artificial intelligence will never be able fully to mimic or to produce. At least I don't believe. And I think the human power there, with outsourcing some administrative type of activities to machines and to artificial intelligence, will give us more aspect to care for patients, to be more empathetic. When we read a book, we may forget the facts, but we don't forget how the book made us feel, So this is the difference where we are. Artificial intelligence will never forget what they read or what they got into the system. We can, but the feelings and emotions, there is also power there, and our ability to do imaginations and to keep dreaming is something that will bring society and humanity to the next level with artificial intelligence.
Thank you, Dejan. What do you think?
Well, I fully agree with Bogi and Andrea. Every time there is a technological leap, the debate is a lot of people will lose their jobs. And of course, when you introduce internet and electronic messaging, some mailmen will stop working for the mail, regular mail, carrying mail around. But so many other jobs are going to be opened in the digital space. And AI is just a tool. It's a complicated tool. It's a bit scary also because we don't know it yet, but it is just a tool. And this tool, like many, many other tools humanity have invented, will just give the humanity, including in healthcare, the opportunity to do our job more efficient, better, quicker, reaching more people who need care, healthcare. So I'm very, very optimistic, and I refuse to demonize AI, even in healthcare.
Well, that's a very positive message because, yeah, I have heard a lot of other opinions, inclusive colleagues working in the mental health, that all the mental health apps will actually decrease the flow of patients, that they will lose money, they have to, they cannot requalify to gynecologist, but probably they can do something else in their life. So actually, that's a very positive message. Of course, I am on your side, but we need to repeat this not on daily basis, but frequently, because indeed, in the last 150 years, humankind had a lot of provocation, but survived always with the innovation and even utilized them better than before the innovation was there. But yeah, still the question is there. So the next question is more focused on the role of Europe in the global development of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Where do you see the role of Europe? Bogi started with sentence that there are three major players: United States, Europe, and China, India. But where is Europe? Would Europe be the main player? Would be the follower? Would be just an observer? Where would be the role of Europe? Dejan, let's start with you this time.
So I wanted to touch on this. It's a matter of balance between developing AI and regulating AI. And I want to make the bridge here with the green transition also. There is a new pack of pharmaceutical legislation being discussed in Europe now. And one of its items is making drug research and drug manufacturing more eco-friendly. And it's a great idea. Let's do it. But if you do it in a way that's burdensome, too burdensome for industry, for companies, they will just stop investing in Europe. And then Europe will just sit back and watch what the United States and China are doing. And that applies for all regulation. And striking the right balance is not easy, especially in a union with 27 different member states, which discuss for years what needs to be done. So that discussion, striking the right balance between the competitiveness, preserving the competitiveness in Europe, but also observing the society's, the patient's interest, the citizen's interest, is never easy. I would say other players in the global economy are much more oriented towards competitiveness and stimulating their companies. And Europe needs to be more oriented in that direction too. I fear that the approaches, of course, the patients are always first, but we should not kill the hen which lays golden eggs, and that's the pharmaceutical sector.
Thank you. Andrea, what do you think?
Yeah, no, maybe just before I answer your question, Dimitri, just on quickly on those negative aspects that you mentioned of artificial intelligence. You're absolutely right. I mean, there is potential threat of misusing, abusing, creating chemicals that could even destroy lives more than ever before, thanks to artificial intelligence. You know, so it can be really abused negatively to trick the system, to manipulate the process, to do more hacking. So the list of potential threats is enormous. But that's why on your second or third questions, why we are having those discussions, awareness, regulation, some kind of guidance, framework. That's why this is the needed to bring those topics openly and to mitigate them, because this is also where is human power to consider those ethical and moral principles in shaping the impact of artificial intelligence while it's in early stage. On your questions for Europe, I believe that in Europe we have a very strong awareness of artificial intelligence already. Some of our countries are even very advanced. I believe in the Nordics country, they are very advanced with data registry, digitalization, and putting healthcare records in the format that could be digested and processed by artificial intelligence tools. But it's not to neglect also other countries. Even in Bulgaria, we have amazing company and tech institutions here in Bulgaria doing like Skilline that is digitalizing the sector of the healthcare in a fantastic way, leveraging artificial intelligence and making the impact. And this is really something that we can do even more. And Europe has a strong awareness of data privacy issue. This is where we are maybe even leading globally. And in terms of innovation, the number of publications, patents, we are equal with the US and with Asia. And one need that we need to increase our capabilities is this entrepreneurship skills, how to turn that academic theoretical innovation into real life. And we are aware of that. This is where we are believe that we are not the number one in the world. But we have organizations, and I must proudly say that I'm part of one junior achievement with my dear friend Milena Stojčeva. She is actually bringing in Bulgaria the capabilities and skills among individuals, young people, senior people. It doesn't matter to create this, doesn't matter on the age, but to create these entrepreneurial capabilities and to create this, to turn the theoretical knowledge into the practice and operationalize it. And we will catch up there, Europe in general, but I'm also very optimistic for Bulgaria as well.
Bogi?
Yeah, so I think there are different dynamics which are going on. Europe has chosen to have quite a strong privacy part, which is understandable and also needed to a certain extent. But I also ask the question sometimes, how many people did privacy kill? Because you couldn't access the necessary data to save the people you actually had to treat or are already in your hospital. So there is a balance that we need to focus on. What we are trying to do with privacy, and here AI comes in as well, is that we are putting it on an analog mindset. It's like putting it into a bank box. What we really need is to have transparency and linkage, so you can see whoever accesses or uses data that is linked to you. I know it sounds like a dream, but we cannot lock data into bank boxes and still get the utility of data use. It's not possible. So we need to take that head on and say the privacy of the future digital and with AI is different. So when it then comes to how do we do this? So reimbursement, what we pay for, is hugely important for how we create systems. Today there is too much money on the data and too little on the function. So the World Bank is also working with a concept on data intent. So when you have data, especially if it's financed publicly, there is an intent for multiple use. So the moving from paper to digital is also the infinitive use of data. It's not a one use. And that requires that we get the data lock-in off. If we want precise data, that's what we need to do. From Europe, where I see the failure is that we invested heavily into big data. We invested heavily into genomics, but also invested heavily into to anonymize data. But if you want to be precise, it can't be anonymous. You need to be able to link it. So the strength we have in Europe, and especially in some of the countries, is that the data quality is actually quite good, and you can connect to several parameters at the same time. But at the same time, we are trying to do it in a way so it's harmless, so you can't do the regulation. So it should be the other way around. How do we make data usable with AI? So the protection is something you do once you have defined what is the usability. It's not the other way around the way we are discussing it. Now we are discussing what can harm, so we can't use it there, then where can we use it? And that's very limited. That's not dreaming, that is going to sleep, so to say.
Good, but all three answers were very political and diplomatic, and in fact I was not able to understand what will be the role of Europe. So I want to one question: number one, number two, or number three among the three groups, so to say, or major players?
Sure. So as I said, we are lacking in Europe on entrepreneurship and more operationalizing artificial intelligence opportunities. I think on a theoretical, academic, patent publication level, we are at par with our US colleagues and Asian colleagues as well. We just need to build more capabilities, how to turn that into the practical materialization, more startups, more initiatives that are practically deploying the theoretical initiatives that exist.
So
And
does that mean place 3 or place 2 or place 1? Who is?
It depends on us. It depends on all of us.
But what's your forecast? What's your prognosis? You are a dreamer. So
we are at the moment, we are not there when it comes to the entrepreneurship skills. We are not number one. That's for sure. But we have put a lot of initiatives that will help us to get to the number one. So I think now we are probably number 3, 4, but on a good way to become, let's say, at par or at least equal to share the number one with the US and with colleagues from Asia. And this is important, you know, that kind of skills we are implementing at the university, in schools, in corporations as well. That's something that we need to build more assertiveness and more operational practical knowledge. So that's for me number one priority, to bring us from the position 3, 4 to number 1.
Diane, what do you think?
Well, you said number 1, 2, or 3. You forget that there are number 4, 5, 6, etc. So it could be much worse.
Yeah.
No,
but among the major players, US.
Definitely. Currently, Europe is positioned, how to say, compared to US and China, maybe in the less favorable spot compared to them now. Can we change this? I think, yeah. We can change this, working together in partnership with the other players. This ranking system is important, but in a global world, and I do understand that the policy trends are different now, but in a global world, there shouldn't be number 1, 2, or 3. We should all work together. I know I sound idealistic here. We need to attract investments, but when we discuss the pharmaceutical legislation, the competitiveness in Europe, we do this in maybe 100% of the cases with American companies. So they care about the competitiveness in Europe, and they're not saying, let's the competitiveness in Europe decrease, so we will invest more in the US. No one's saying that. So we have to work together so that in how many years, I don't know, you ask these 1, 2, 3, or let's say in 10 years, we're all together as global humanity at number 1 place when using AI in healthcare and transitioning to green economy.
That's very realistic. Bogi, what do you think?
Yeah, so I yes, there are several dimensions of this, and Europe is up more in top on some and not in others. So when it comes to moving the masses a bit, so really to focus on, can you not complicate it too much, have some kind of data and put artificial intelligence, really to get a step move on public health, probably India is in front with China. India is having a huge impact right now. Europe is not good at that part. When it then comes to applying artificial intelligence into high-paying ecosystems, separated ecosystem as we see in the US, it's clearly that US is in front. But it's not national, it's not taking all populations, it's really fragmented in that way. Europe has research infrastructures, has the framework of data sharing if we want to. We still need to apply it much better. And has a much better position to do the link between the individual, the person, and the system in this. So the potential in 10 years to be the front runner in this is enormous, but we still need to walk the talk. If we don't take this, and that means that we need to demystify the privacy way we are talking about things today, and we need to embrace the work with privacy. But if we are not giving people, and sorry, I don't like Facebook, but Facebook is very good at giving some kind of value to people so they use it. So if we don't give value to the population, it won't happen. So it's not just a legal framework, it's the buy-in from the population in order to become a front runner, and then that will get us to get more investment, which will take this. So the potential for Europe to be a front runner in 10 years is there, but we are not there today.
Good. We have 5 minutes left, and I have 2 more questions where I would be happy to get short answers. Because this is important, I think, for the audience and for the society and for me as well. Where do you see the role of artificial intelligence in drug discovery? Do you think that the leading role of artificial intelligence in drug discovery will be soon or not soon? What's your short answer, Bogi?
I think it will be very soon.
Dejan?
So short. It's already happening, I would say, because huge amount of clinical trial data are somewhere in some cabinets or on servers, and they could be, COVID showed this, they could be combed for the relevant pieces of data combined together, and this to support new treatments without even doing new clinical research, without making it again and again. Of course, some changes are needed in that direction. For example, how companies share their clinical trial data, because they're currently owning it, and closed servers, etc. But it's already happening. Companies are combining resources and clinical trial data and using AI in order to comb that data and support new clinical research and new drug discovery.
Fully agree. Dimitri, I guess you would like me to proceed next. Yeah. So fully agree. Yeah. We are already doing that. I mean, maybe 10 years ago, I used to work in clinical development. Actually, I was doing in silico modeling even at that time. Even I remember one ophthalmology drug I was trying to create in silico modeling to support submission in Japan for one of Novartis drug in ophthalmology portfolio at that time, and it was accepted even 10 years ago. Now the things are even accelerating even more. And we already even have some initiatives when we are sharing publicly clinical trial results. I know that Novartis, through the Harmony European project, disclose one of our clinical trial in the public domain. And those kind of initiatives will continue more and more to secure more partnerships, optimization, and better utilization of the data. And when it comes to research and development in pharma industry, we already know today that there are a couple of startups that they are doing with artificial intelligence drug repurposing almost fully in silico drug discovery and development. So without any vet animal experiments or clinical trials. This is already happening. There are very little number of examples, but I think this will happen more and more, and will help us also in the research and development pharma industry to change those numbers of 10,000 preclinical molecules, only one getting to the market, or 1 of 10 clinical trials succeeded. I think this is going to rapidly get improved over the next couple of years, thanks to artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much. And the last question for today is, again, the role of artificial intelligence, but in screening, which is a completely different process from drug discovery. Andrea, what do you think? But please, a short answer.
Yeah. Liquid biopsy, additional biotechnology expansion, it's going to help us a lot to identify a proper patients for the treatment, to predict the outcome most precisely, more accurately. Already happening, I am saying that, not in a holistic way, everywhere we would like, but very important topic also in the risk prediction and prevention of diseases as well.
Bogi?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is already happening there, but if we really want to apply this use broadly, we also need to have the guts to go into social determinants and stratifying and then having the data input so we can do the screening. Because I mean, one thing is the tools that we use, but it's also the measures to know who to get to additional tests, which is really the important thing where we can apply this and have huge impacts.
Dejan?
Yeah, AI can help doctors and the system get the patients to the screening programs. Which are the patients and when do they need to receive the screening? Currently, it's not happening efficiently enough. In Bulgaria, it's not happening at all. So without this, just going the old way will be much slower to implement the screening programs we need in Bulgaria. Of course, there stays the question with unlocking the potential of data we already have. And I would say, adjusting the privacy rules so we can use that data efficiently.
Thank you very much. This was really a very nice conversation. I am thankful to Bogi, Dejan, and Andrea for taking part, for Novartis for supporting this event, and I wish you a good day and a good conference further on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitar.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
See
Thank you.
next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now we have 5 minutes technical break, Peter, and we continue with you.
Okay, I was a little bit in panic, Dimitar, because I thought, oh, I'm too late, but I checked it.
No. You are as usually on time. So we have 5 minutes break, and then we continue with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I think we can start slowly. Peter, hello.
Hello.
I'm very happy on board for this conversation, for this interview. And the main topic is the role of artificial intelligence in healthcare under the aspect of the patients and patient centricity. First of all, would you be so kind to introduce yourself briefly?
Yes. My name is Peter Kapitein. I live and work in Amsterdam, founded an international global organization for patient advocacy. And you can describe our main activities as connecting the stakeholders in the medical industrial complex to improve quality of life for cancer patients.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And what is your general attitude to artificial intelligence? Do you like artificial intelligence or not? Because that's part of our conversation.
Yes, so I hope I like it because it is inevitable. And as many things that are inevitable, it depends on how you look at it, if you see the dark side or the sunny side of it. And I think it can improve, it can improve and it will improve life. And well, we should take care of the dangers that are also part of it. So I'm much in favor of artificial intelligence because I think it will improve quality of life, and not only quality of life of patients, but quality of life of human beings.
Okay, thank you. So what do you think? Do you think that the artificial intelligence introduced in healthcare, which apparently happens already, but also will happen in the close future, will in a way hamper the role of patients in healthcare and the patient centricity?
Yes, and I think there are, well, like I said on the first question, the answer on the first question, there are different perspectives on that. Quite some artificial intelligence is used at this moment as a black box. There is information going in, and there comes information out, and you don't know what happens inside in the black box. Which means, a consequence can be that it's more difficult for a physician to answer questions of patients. Why is it like it is? So it will make the role of the physician first, because we are now in the beginning of artificial intelligence. It will make the role of the physician a little bit more difficult because of the complexity and the unknown inside the black box. But let's also face that artificial intelligence facilitates or makes possible personalized medicine. And when you look at personalized, well, there is the word personalized in it. I think there is no personalized medicine without artificial intelligence. So when it comes to patient centricity, then it goes without saying that artificial intelligence will contribute to that. Yes, I think I'll leave it by this, but I think the personalized medicine is the most important reason why artificial intelligence is very important for patients, for patient centricity, because it will emphasize the need from evolving from drug-centric approach. We have a medicine, let's find a group of patients for it, towards patient-centric approach. We have a patient and let's find a treatment for her.
Good, but as you said, artificial intelligence is for the moment partially a black box. And if there is, in a way, an inborn mistake in the artificial intelligence, or a mistake which is planned, unfortunately, by somebody or something, so there is a chance that the patient centricity is lost, and the interest in the healthcare is more and more focused on the artificial intelligence per se, serving the artificial intelligence instead of serving patients. Do you think that this is possible?
Yes, that is possible, but it's also possible in the standard of care.
Yeah.
Only we are used to use standard of care. That's why it's called standard of care. But let's face it, if you have a BRCA mutation breast cancer, there is a chance that olaparib will work in 23% of the cases of the patients. So when you ask the physician, will it work in me? The answer will be, I don't know. And you're allowed to give this answer because you have because of the regulation. We say, okay, evidence-based medicine tells us that it's good to give olaparib in the case of BRCA mutated breast cancer, and then we accept that 67% of the patients will not respond. Now something new comes and we say, hey, what happens if the outcome will not be as we expect it to be? And what I think we have lost in the last 2 or 3 decades is we think we do evidence-based medicine, but when you look at the fundament of evidence-based medicine, we are not acting upon that. Yes, we use science and data, and that's good, but evidence-based medicine also includes the narrative of the patient and the clinical expertise of the physician. So when you bring in artificial intelligence into the doctor's room and into the discussion between the doctor and the patient, there is always that clinical expertise that helps you come to better decisions.
Well, that's a very interesting explanation, and hopefully it happens in this way. So what is the way patients can use artificial intelligence for getting better healthcare? We discussed in the previous panel, and you were hearing the final 2 questions and the answers, that the intention to utilize artificial intelligence in drug discovery and screening is huge. So do you think that patients can use this in their personal favor, or you understand what I mean? So
yeah, I understand what you mean. I think patients should demand that it will be used. I think in many cases nowadays we can do much better. We do not use the technology that is available. We stick to the standard of care, and we do not dare to take the risk to use the new technology, to use, for example, artificial intelligence to improve treatments. Having said that, yes, it is also possible that you make a wrong decision. But if you stick to the standard of care, I always bring in the hidden cost of saying no. The hidden cost of saying no means that if you do not act in the way you could, because you might do harm to a patient, harm in the sense the treatment doesn't work or the side effects will not be as you like it, that if you stick to standard of care, that doesn't mean you do no harm. So being compliant with standard of care doesn't mean that you are not doing harm, and that is what I mean by the hidden cost of saying no. Not acting it doesn't mean that you do no harm. So I think patients should demand the new technology being part of healthcare, but don't stop thinking.
Yeah, but how can we formalize this demand? I mean, just demanding, or there should be other tools for demanding? What do you mean by demanding?
Yeah, well, maybe to add something to the question before is that don't start with, don't start, for example, with my own disease. I have a follicular lymphoma. 96% of the patients respond to the standard, to the protocol, the standard of care. So you don't start new developments in follicular lymphoma. But when you look at glioblastoma or when you look at pancreatic cancer, there are almost no results in the past 3-4 decades. Start in unmet medical needs, and I think patients should demand it, but at least patient advocates like me should facilitate the new approach, so that doing trials, use new techniques also means that you learn. And the only way in progress is by learning and by doing trials. 40 years ago, all children with leukemia died. And now, at least in the Western world, more than 95% of the children with leukemia get cured. And the reason for that is that we did research, we did trials, we put all these children in trials, and the result is good news, enormously.
So, but once again, formalization means that we have to probably organize patients in a way to exert pressure on technological companies, because what I see is that for the moment, artificial intelligence is mainly used for optimizing costs of healthcare, for optimizing timelines, but not in the interest of the patients. I haven't seen an artificial intelligence setup which is meant for patient interest or for patient centricity.
I think that's not true, and I think you know better. Because multi-cancer early detection is all about algorithms and artificial intelligence. And finding circulating tumor DNA based on a tube of blood is an algorithm. Yes, and well, 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a very successful experiment in the UK. 100,000 people in a trial of the NHS were in a gallery trial, and it was a very good success. Well, that is artificial intelligence, and you could say, okay, that is when you screen multi-cancer early detection, basically is screening. You do not screen in patients, you screen in citizens. But you hopefully prevent them from having late-stage cancers. So I think there are examples, or at least multi-cancer early detection is a good example of artificial intelligence algorithms that contribute to patients, or at least to citizens.
Well, that was a good answer. Now we are speaking on this event also on green healthcare. And there was a very clear description of what is green healthcare in the previous panel, but what do you think about the patients in the green healthcare? That's of course something which is important for everyone, but it's also important for patients. Where do you see the role of the patients in the green healthcare?
I think that was the most difficult question that you sent to me. What can be the role of patients in that? I think, well, and maybe it's not a very good answer, but I think one thing that patients could do is ask for consulting your physician via virtual sessions. That's of course not always possible, but quite some consulting of the physician can be done virtually. I live quite next to the hospital, so every year twice I go to my physician. That's first because it's close. The second one is because I love her. But that can save a lot of traveling. The other thing is, and that is more indirect. No, let me put it in another way. In the Science and Innovation Panel of IHI, where I'm part of. There will be in the next call for proposals, we'll focus on, you could say, green healthcare, and that is to use less equipment, to use equipment that is, well, a little more green than the equipment used now, and the reusable of equipment. Technology can find possibilities for more green equipment in healthcare, which of course is not really cannot really be started by patients, but at least what we can do is to ask for it, to be aware of the enormous waste that takes place in hospitals with medical equipment.
Excellent. Now we have in the room Dr. Hasardziev, who is the head of the National Patient Organization in Bulgaria and also the president of Bulgarian Society for Personalized Medicine. Dr. Hasardziev, Stanimir, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet all of you.
Yeah. So what do you think about the role of the patients in the healthcare in terms of artificial intelligence? Would this be a challenge for the patients, or would this be a challenge for the artificial intelligence?
Actually, I think the biggest challenge would be to explain what is artificial intelligence. And being artificial is not controversial to being natural, but could be very, very helpful for patients to become more close to the nature, more independent, more capable to control their own disease, and of course, more secure when they provide data to a machine rather than a person to be analyzed in the future and to be used, reused for fundamental research, for finding new treatments, new drugs, for personalizing your treatments and drugs based on your personal data that could come not only from what you provide, but also from your environment, from your intelligent house, for example, from the sensors which are here and there. All this that could be analyzed and could produce enough information so that we can tailor advices, care, treatment, so it could be efficient in all aspects of your life, including energy efficient. So I believe the role of patients, the role of citizens would be increasing in using artificial intelligence, regardless how we call it, regardless whether we know it's artificial intelligence or we just call it Alexa or whatever device we have at home. We already live with the artificial intelligence, and I believe this would be the case from now on. It could be a very, very useful tool for all of us to be more in control if we use it in the right way.
So I challenged Peter with the question about the green healthcare, the role of the patients in the green healthcare and the role of artificial intelligence in the green healthcare. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm sure in the future we're going to see more and more cases where patients and patients' behavior and the changes in the healthcare systems would lead to huge savings in terms of energy. For example, today, multitasking is not probably the most effective thing that you can be or you can do to save energy. But finding another way to optimize what you are multitasking and not only working, but also working in a way that it will help your health, for example, or not only eating, but eating exactly what you need based on your personal preferences, but also based on your personal needs and condition that is guided through artificial intelligence could potentially save huge amounts of wasted energy for traveling to the doctor, for doing something that is very routine nowadays, but probably in the future would be something that the artificial intelligence and tools can do it for you at home without even moving to the doctor, without the need even to talk to the doctor in certain cases. Why not for initial screening of risk factors or annual checkup of your behavior, or even to capture all this data without asking the patient, with his knowledge, of course, and with his agreement, but having intelligent sensors at home could save lots of energy and money that otherwise would be wasted for unnecessary exams, unnecessary visits to doctor, etc. I think the entire landscape is going to change in the months and years to come, and we have to be ready for shifting our minds and preparing our minds for this as well.
Well, this was really a very nice description, because I like gadgets who help at home, and if there are scanners at home who can improve the diagnosis of the patient, this will be really extremely helpful and a great contribution to the so-called green healthcare. In the previous session, there was huge discussion about the regulation of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Would this help or handicap the developments in healthcare? Peter, what do you think about this?
What is exactly your question? Will it help? Because I already answered quite some things, but
no. If there is a regulation, because artificial intelligence is not regulated yet properly in healthcare in Europe, while in the United States it's already under regulation by FDA. What do you think? If there is regulation of artificial intelligence in healthcare, would this help or would this handicap?
Well, in the preparation of this session, I wrote down, I hope not. Regulation. I think what we saw with data, sharing of data, I think we should prevent that happens with artificial intelligence, happens with what happened with sharing of data happens with artificial intelligence, because we have so much regulation on data that it is very hard to share data. We have done some good in Europe, but it's quite impossible to share data from Europe with the United States, for only to mention the two Western continents. So, of course, regulation is necessary. But I think what needs to be done is, when you regulate, bring in patients into the equation to formulate regulation. Again, looking at data, almost all the surveys learn us that patients want to share their data. More than 90% of the patients said, you can even use my data without asking. Artificial intelligence needs to be set up and regulated with patients at the table, because we're talking about risks. And when you talk about risk, it is the risk of the patient. So I think, yes, we need regulation, not too much. And the reason why I think that we do not need it too much is that the checks and balances are quite good in place. We need checks and balances. I think they are quite good in place. And regulation, well, again, we need to avoid over-regulating in a way that we cannot benefit from artificial intelligence and think that we help the patient. Being compliant with regulation, like I said in my earlier answer, doesn't mean you do no harm to patients.
Yeah. Good, Stanimir, what do you think about this? Are you in favor of more strict regulations of artificial intelligence in healthcare, or let's say being more, what's the correct expression? Being more relaxed on this topic?
I could echo some of the words that we heard already, but I do believe that artificial intelligence is nothing more than a machine at the end. Well, it's a clever machine, it's self-learning machine, but it's learning based on the rules that we create around this machine. Still, these rules are very important, and they could be built in a way that the primary aim is not to harm, first, not harm. We can really refer to the fundamentals of medicine and how we provide treatments and medicines to patients. First, don't harm the patient, don't harm the person. But regulation, as we have seen in the past, has not always led to better healthcare. And the example we just heard is right. In Europe, we are over-regulated in data, which creates lots of obstacles for small and medium enterprises, for innovators, for startups, for the research and development, and that's clear. On the opposite side is the user experience and the user desire. Regardless of the regulation, users are searching for information in internet. They are talking to each other. They are sharing advices, regardless what the doctor would say, regardless what the media would do, regardless of the propaganda. Still patients are searching for information. Now we are in a situation when we have the chance to be in the very beginning of extremely new era. And if we don't screw up the situation as with the early times, of internet, where we simply put everything available to everyone, and afterwards patients and people were in a very difficult situation to understand what is trustful and what is not. I think now is the time that we create a very good system that could verify what is the right technology and who verifies that, what are the references and how much you can trust that. But of course, we cannot overregulate the development of the artificial intelligence, which is with the speed of the light. I think it's doubling every day. I'm so much surprised of how many new things and new concepts are appearing out there, and I can just imagine what will happen in the future. The regulations are not going to be able to follow all these changes and all these new opportunities that are going to appear. We better turn our behavior and attitude towards that, and we try to select what really matters, to select what really could be recommended to patients and what really stays on evidence, rather than trying to overregulate the process that, regardless of our regulations, is simply on its way to happen and will be happening.
Okay, that's how can I say, a very philosophical answer. But once again, do you think that regulation will help or handicap? Give me a short answer, not a political one.
Okay, for sure, regulation can help if it's done in the right way to the interests of those who are going to use it.
So what means in the right way? Because that's also a political expression. Define the right way.
The right way is to have the regulation to extent where it protects the patient, but allows the patient to have a proper choice, information, and chance to live better life.
So I think that that's not an oxymoron. I mean, artificial intelligence can be properly regulated.
True.
But regulated in a way to support the main objective of healthcare, patients, and not probably support other stakeholders who are there for profit. So I think that in terms of regulation, the first and the most important topic should be do not harm. Exactly. If you cannot help, do not harm. And the second topic, which is extremely important, would be do not look for over profit, because if healthcare is meant only for profit, then irrespective how you regulate artificial intelligence, it will work for profit. And I was last week in Finland on a very nice conference, and there was a slide which I recorded, and the slide was, in the Nordics, healthcare is not a business. Which I think is a very good definition for how artificial intelligence in healthcare should be regulated. This should not be done for business. It should be done for the sake of the patients.
Yeah. But I can add something to that, because I think
this
is exactly what it is about. And in my answer, I refer to checks and balances. Yeah. And what you do, what you said, are checks and balances. It's not for profit.
Yeah.
And do no harm. And how does it work? As you know, I work all my life in finance, and when I have an audience and I speak about topics like this, I always ask people, do you trust banks? Then everybody starts laughing. Nobody trusts banks. And the second question is, where's your money? Well, in the bank. So basically, you put your money in an organization that you do not trust. And the reason why you do that is because of the checks and balances. Yeah. Because you know that when something goes wrong, at least you know in Europe, you know that when something goes wrong, you get your money back. Yes, that's the deposit guarantee regulation. So that is take care of good checks and balances, so that people can still transfer money the way they want from Amsterdam to Rotterdam or from Amsterdam to Sofia, etc. Everything is allowed. You can do everything with you, but the checks and balances are in place. Yeah, and I think that do no harm. And Stanimir explained what is do no harm. And healthcare is not for profit. These are checks and balances, probably one or two more, don't know, but probably one or two more are necessary to prevent us from over-regulating artificial intelligence. Because if you give artificial intelligence to a lawyer, they will find every exception and make a rule for it.
Yeah.
And these rules for exceptions hinder us in the daily practice. If you make a rule, at least do it for the general population and not for the exception. For the exception, common sense, checks and balances, etc.
I do believe that at the end, profit, because profit is important vehicle, let's say, for the entire world for ages now. But regulated profit and profit reinvested in patients and the systems is something else. And I would echo what you're saying about the possibilities of AI and why it shouldn't be used for profit. I would slightly add on top of that, or if the profit is properly invested in underinvested areas for patients, or where we have huge unmet needs, or for training of doctors or caregivers, etc. Profit is not always a very bad issue, but some incentives should be found, so we can because we can end up in a situation where artificial intelligence would be very, very helpful in other areas of development of our lives. But when we talk about healthcare, we have huge unmet need where artificial intelligence definitely could play a key role. And to make it happen, we have to find the balance between those who are interested in profit and those of us who are interested in the results and reinvesting the profit again in society and something good.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah.
Good. And Peter, you said, at least in Europe, about the banks. So where will be Europe in terms of competition with Asia and the United States in the integration of artificial intelligence in healthcare, in the prospect of the patient centricity? Because we know that Europe is strong in patient centricity in comparison to Asia. I cannot compare very well how strong is Europe in patient centricity in comparison to the United States. But if we start integrating artificial intelligence in healthcare, would this hamper this leading position of Europe in a way?
I'm not satisfied with the way Europe is acting in artificial intelligence and in implementing modern technology at all. I think compared to China, well, as you know, our organization works with people in China,
yeah,
and also works with people in the United States and the UK. Again, when it comes to multi-cancer early detection, you see good developments in Asia, in China, but also in USA and also in the UK.
Yeah.
UK had a very successful early detection trial a couple of weeks ago, published a couple of weeks ago. In Europe, we are very good in research. We are good in research and we're not good in implementing. And I think that is the reason why, and in Europe, the Netherlands by far are the slowest. I think from the research perspective here in the Netherlands, we are in the top 3. But on the implementing perspective, we are by far the slowest. Not even the slowest 3, no, the last one. And so I think compared to Asia and the United States and the UK, well, we can do much better.
Good. That's a good answer. Stanimir, what do you think about this?
I'll look into the future again. I don't think it's going to matter whether you're European, Asian, or American from now on. The world becomes one very well-connected world. And it's a matter of time, also using artificial intelligence to overcome many of the issues that we have right now. It's not going to be an easy process, but I'm sure that it's going to be easier than before when we were trying to resolve these issues alone with our own brains. Now, when we are connected so well with the entire knowledge of the world, and the computing power of the machines is growing and growing, I believe that the entire paradigm would change. And sooner or later, it's not going to matter whether this is developing faster in Europe or China. It will be a matter of days to transfer to any part of the world. It depends on us how well we will make sure that nobody is left behind. And this is going to be the key, how we make the technologies available to everyone, how we make sure that regardless where you live, you will have the chance to experience the same level of diagnosis or information as anyone else in the world. Also, developing and the companies and the industries, I believe that in less developed countries, now people are becoming a bit more active, inventive, because of the need. I can see Bulgaria. Bulgaria has lots of problems and huge IT industry, probably also because of being poor country and many people simply finding a niche where workforce is needed. Even though today with the artificial intelligence and the ability to make code only by saying to the computer what code you need is going to change this landscape as well.
Well, I'm a bit stressed or distressed, said correctly, by your idea that no matter where we are, this will be a connected world, because as Peter said, data sharing is extremely complicated. So if we use an artificial intelligence health tool, which is based in India, with data sharing troubles in Europe, how do you think that this artificial intelligence tool in India can do self-learning if it does not has any access to data in Europe?
I do believe that it's a matter of time to find a way to have access or to interchange, to have interoperable data and comparable. And up to now, we were trying to resolve this issue alone via the traditional ways we have been working with data. Now we have the chance actually to leave leave the data tell us how to be compared and how to mix it and how to analyze it together. I believe it's a matter of time for this to be over, just an issue in the past, rather than a real issue. And the good thing—
It's very optimistic. Sorry to interrupt you. I think that Europe will never go back from the principles of problematic data sharing. If this is healthy or no, I cannot say, but that's the reality. You know, the reality is that the data sharing in Europe is almost impossible at the moment.
And I can add something. I can add something to this because I think there, of course, Stanimir is right. But in the end, it's not about intention, but it's about implementation. And we see a lot of inequities within Europe, but also, of course, with the lower middle income countries. And I think I think there are at least two reasons for these inequities. The first is money. Lots of countries have not enough money to implement new technology as fast as it could be. And the other one is regulation. And regulation got to do with politics, culture, whatever. I work quite a lot with a Chinese guy, and he made a wonderful remark a couple of weeks ago to me. He said, "Peter, we have one voice. You in Europe have too many voices.
Yeah.
And both is not good." That was his intention. You see, it's not good to have one voice who says, "Okay, this is going to happen, and nobody can argue with that." But we have too many voices, and a lot of these many voices do not know what they're talking about. Exactly. It's good to bring people at the table who know what they're talking about, because then you improve the quality of the product, the technique or whatsoever. But a lot of people who are at the table do not know what they're talking about. And these should not be part of the equation. well, so well, at least in Asia, they have not enough voices, and we have too many voices.
I think that the other aspect of all that set up to now could be that at the end, we have our own and personal voices. And this is something that forever, I hope, would be our owned by ourselves. And we can decide what we can do with the data that we can produce, at least on our behalf and our families, etc. That's why I think that the regulations are not going to be capable to follow so fast the development of the technologies and the new ways that AI would identify, select, use, rework data, and produce new tools or new ways of collecting data. And as far as the individuals are under control, no regulation can stop this process, I think, from now on. It will be very difficult, really, to follow from legislative point of view everything that should be regulated.
Very good. So I think that this was a very nice end of our conversation. Thank you very much. I think that the contribution of Peter and Stanimir for artificial intelligence in healthcare was substantial. This was a patient perspective, the voice of the patients in terms of patient centricity. It will not be an easy task to integrate artificial intelligence in healthcare. It will be not an easy task to regulate it. And the most complicated part will be regulation in the principal interest of patients, because that's what matters actually in the healthcare. Thank you very much once again, and hope to see you soon in person
Yes.
in Sofia.
Me too.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful. And
Yeah.
I think I see Gargana in the front row. So I send my regards to Gargana.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.